We're going to talk today about fashion films, which is kind of a new thing that's been happening. And a lot of companies that are involved in this are people who are in the luxury market business. So we'll get into that in a minute. But first, there's been some discussion about what a check means and what a check minus means and what a check plus means. So if you refer back to the syllabus in the beginning, a check all the way through is fine. It means you're doing well. Most people get checks at this point. So if you've gotten checks all the way through and you've been to all the classes, then you're going to get an A. So no contest about that. Then if you got some check minuses in the beginning, and just a couple of them, and then you improve to checks, then you're okay also. But if you get a string of check minuses and there isn't improvement over the semester, then I start taking a notch of a grade off. So 3 check minuses will drop you to an A minus. If it's more than that, it drops you to more. If you miss some classes, then it drops you. So check that and kind of figure out how many you've gotten so far. I mean, nobody's going to flunk the class unless they missed a lot of classes and didn't turn in the summaries. Okay. Next time we have student speakers. So those will be 3 student speakers, I think. Is Twakili here?
She's in the building, so. She should be here.
I'm a little worried about her getting up, because I have not seen her yet. We might transfer that information to her somehow. And then I also want to do an exit survey, because we've done that a couple of times with this class to find out what you thought you learned at URI. There's a few kind of main things we'd like you to know before you leave. So each faculty member has contributed something like that. So grad students don't need to do this, but it's for undergrads, because we use it for the outcomes and assessments exercise, which is something we have to do these days. So it won't take too long, and you should be out in a reasonable amount of time next week. Okay, so today we're going to be talking a bit about fashion films. And they're part of the new emerging social media that companies are using. So just to get us started here, all brands, and you'll hear this over and over again, are looking for advancing their presence on social media. So a lot of companies are looking to people who are graduating who understand social media like they do not understand social media to help them get going. So what does it entail, really? What do most of the companies that we've had coming here today, or that you've been interning at, what do they do for social media to help them to raise their brand awareness?
Promotion.
Pardon?
Sales promotion.
We're going to put sales promotions on, but what mechanisms do they use? Not in magazines. Well, it could be an e-magazine. It's digital.
Instagram, Twitter.
Okay, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. How many of you actually check these kinds of things on a regular basis? Okay, tell me what you do. Jasmine, what do you do?
For me, it's more about looking at what their new lines are, what directions they're going in creatively, what technologies they're using, as
Okay.
far as
But you're
towards
looking
their
at
design.
it as a design for design inspiration.
Oh, definitely,
Okay.
definitely.
So if you're, those of you who are purchasing, because that's who they want to attract here.
Well, I just follow a bunch of designers and stores on Instagram and stuff,
Mhm.
and you just scroll through your newsfeed and their Instagram will pop up. So it's nice to see their new items that are coming out, or Nordstrom will sometimes say when they have sales or their new item that they have. So it's basically just promotes their product.
follows that. Anybody else? There's some things that they, Emily?
I know like trends in fashion through Instagram,
Okay,
like bloggers and retailers, and sort of see where they intersect and where it's going. The shipping needs and merchandising.
okay. Patrick?
I was gonna say with like certain brands, they try to give the customer like a visual for their campaign and lifestyle they're trying to portray to you through their clothes, so they want you to understand that through their films or
Yes,
photography.
that's more what these are trying to do. But, how many of you watch fashion films? Up higher, okay. Often? On a regular basis, okay. Well, it's relatively new, I guess, because it has to work with YouTube, of course. So YouTube's been around, I think they're having their 10th anniversary. And the belief here is that online video consumption is growing so that brands need to start considering this, and luxury brands are part of that mix. What they're trying to do is put together short films that become an important component of brand advertising, although there's some uncertainty about how to go about this based on some reading that I've been doing. So we have to think about it for a minute. Are they social media or are they paid advertising? Because, a print magazine, the company pays big money to put an ad in the magazine. And we heard about the David Yurman and the Rolex and what kinds of ads that they would put in, what their specifications for the ads. So if you're a subscriber to a print magazine like Vogue or Harper's Bazaar, you constantly see in the early parts of the magazine the advertising from the luxury brands, the Dior, the Balenciaga, and so on. It's always there in the front. They have full-page ads. So if it was social media, then it would, that's not the print, because you paid for that. You'd have to have somebody tweet about that or make some comment on their Facebook page. So some commentary that's not paid, that's out there floating among people who are consumers of fashion. So, I think they're a little bit uncertain about this, because at this time we are not paying to go see fashion films, this type of thing, right? You view it because you want to, and it's out there on some platform, usually their Facebook page. So typically, the way these are working is that the company puts it on their own company website, and then they want to have people view it. So their social media people comment about it in tweets, or they try to get people to repost it, and then they count how many views that they get. Because we hear all the time about certain videos that go viral because it's a really crazy cat doing something, or some amazing accident that somebody saw, or a shark jumping up next to a boat. Those are the kinds of things that get millions of views. So far, most fashion films are not getting millions of views. Oops, so looking at this. There isn't a lot out there about this, so it's, this is since 10:30 last night. Today, I put this together. This is just to help you frame this a little bit, because we're going to look at some films. I've already looked at a few of these, so I thought they were kind of interesting. That we could view them and make some comments about them too. But there was a study done last year sometime, because this was from an October report, that marketers, marketing companies are planning, 69%, so that's the majority of marketers are planning to increase their digital video advertising. So there's a lot of room to grow with this, if that's the way it's really gonna move. And then advertising agencies want to increase their digital video advertising too. Not quite as enthusiastic about it as marketers, but they're definitely seeing that this is a direction that brands need to move. Okay, so the company that did that was the Interactive Advertising Bureau, US company. Okay? So here's some considerations that were pointed out by some observers who are specializing in this. We say that most people will only give a video 15 seconds before they move on, decide to watch it through. So you have to capture attention in 15 seconds. That's tough for fashion because the way that fashion advertising works, it's a nice image, it's in a nice setting, they're used to still photography. So what do you do with a video to make people stay with it? Is it just a pretty dress that you see for 15 seconds? Usually more of these are a minute and a half, something like that. So, it is the beauty industry or fashion industry after all, so aesthetics have been given a lot of attention, more than telling a story. So some reactions are, well, this looks great, but it's a little bit boring, not memorable. So we need to have reasons why we should be watching these. A good story is one consideration. Of course, how to count, and how to see that you're successful, it's the number of views, and most films don't even get 10,000 views, so that's a pretty expensive proposition if you're hiring photographers and models and so on, staging shoots and all the people who are helping out and so on. That can get fairly expensive for 10,000 views. Most companies haven't really budgeted for this. They maybe just doing this as an afterthought. They don't understand really how to distribute it, other than what we've talked about already. Usually it's the photographers and their agents who are in control of how the whole thing plays out. So there's the artistic direction is in the hands of the photographers. So it's still a baby industry here. We don't really have a proven format yet. Then, in the ones that are out there, even the ones I'm going to show you today, there's some, I hate to call them categories, but in describing the way that the approach is taken by the company, sometimes they're just like moving ads. So they look like, they could be stills, but they happen to be moving. Okay, so it's people in clothes doing something, but the kind of activity that the clothes would be normally worn for. Then they're growing in complexity here from the first one to the last one. So some are scenes, little short scenes that depict the clothing, but try to get the brand's DNA, as Patrick was pointing out. And they try to make the viewer feel like they're in another world, even if it's just for a minute. Sometimes humor is used. Fashion, we don't like to think of it as super funny, but there are some, you can't make fun of fashion, because that's not really the thing that you're trying to get with fashion, but there are some funny stories, or humorous, make lighthearted looks at fashion. So we'll see one of those. And then there are some dramatic stories. Some of these work, some of these don't work, in my opinion. 'Cause if you can't figure out in the couple minutes what the storyline actually is, then it's not terribly successful. So the winning combinations are films that look good, but they also draw some emotion from you. You like it, you laugh. You're disgusted. We don't really want that for film, for fashion. But maybe some social commentary. Okay, so recently, this is where I kind of got this idea, the business of fashion. How many of you read The Business of Fashion? Hired? It's such an excellent format. It's actually, it's a Canadian guy. His name is Imran Ahmed. And he has an MBA, but he also just loves fashion and has been watching fashion ever since he was a kid. So he decided a few years ago to start this online synopsis of what's going on with fashion. So he culls from existing newspapers who report on fashion, like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Manchester Guardian, London Times. He has a China report. So it started fairly small, but now they have a group of reporters, very famous people who write for them. And it's gotten bigger and bigger. They have job announcements now, and they have a weekend report with the best of the best that's gone on during the week. So their group has listed the 10 best fashion films for this past season. So number 1 was a Prada film. And it's a little tiny story. And I have in brackets how long these are. They're all longer than 15 seconds. Some of them are not really, I mean, they're about people in fashion or events in fashion, but not necessarily by a brand. So Kendall Jenner is not a brand, I guess. She's not a luxury company, so we're not going to look at hers. And this one is about 2 U.S. fashion cities, so it's not really selling a branded merchandise. But the rest of these are, you know, Prada, Dior, Chanel, Dolce & Gabbana, Miu Miu, Lanvin, Stella McCartney did a sport line for Adidas, and then Gucci. Okay? So I'm gonna try to do this. Look at these online. Not all of them. We're gonna do 5. The first one is the Stella.